Hi folks, how you doing? It's Richie from Anti-Corruption Scotland TV, and we've a special guest here today, Alex Mitchell. Alex has been a victim of AstraZeneca vaccine, and he's here to give us some facts and information today, which will hopefully help other people in making decisions on whether to take a vaccine or not. Alex, thanks very much for coming along.
No, thanks for inviting me, Richard.
Really appreciate it, and I appreciate your knowledge and bringing it here for the people. Just want to do a wee introduction. Who are you, and what were you doing before you came forward to speak about the vaccines?
Alex Mitchell, local Glasgow boy, born in the East End of Glasgow. Scaffolder, was an old-fashioned mod. I've been into the mod scene since I was 17, which wasn't yesterday. And I was in a band. The whole mod business, it's not just about being in a scene for the music and the clothes and the scooters and things like that. For me, it's a way of life, being a mod. Yep. Well, the scooters, the clothes and the dancing and music, it's all sort of a part of it. I see that's the kind of ego side of the mod. For me, it's about trying to be the best possible version of you that you can be at all times. Yep. In every way, I feel like that every day, but I get up every day and try something different to improve myself a wee bit better, because that's what I believe being a mod is. That then kind of led me at the age of 17, setting the standards, morals, ethics and principles that I think would have made me happy as a human being, as a man. And I've got to be honest, at the age of 56, 57, that's where I was. I was happy being Alec the scaffolder, Alec the mod, doing my thing. And like everyone else, around, you know, the whole of 2020 was an absolute terrifying experience for us all. Leading into early 2021, when these vaccines came out, and we could see people dying everywhere, people being allowed to attend funerals with their loved ones. We see the adverts, it's 24/7, constant. It was on radio, everything, do the right thing.
Propaganda was terrible, Alex. Yeah, it was getting pushed.
And like everyone else, we could see the numbers of all these old people that were dying. So you went and did what you thought was the right thing. And Saturday the 20th of March, I went and got my first AstraZeneca. Was told verbally that you may have a sore sight arm and you may experience cold flu-like symptoms for 48 hours, which kind of did. Went back to work on the Monday and everything was fine to the 1st of April. And the irony of that is not really lost on me. At the 1st of April, I experienced calf issues as a scaffolder. I lifted something heavy. I soldiered on for the next few days, not getting any better, but progressively starting to feel kind of worse, and I'm starting to get really worried. And then on the Sunday, the 4th of April, I felt exhausted but better. And I was meeting my daughter for her birthday, which had been the Saturday, and I'd sort of postponed because I wasn't feeling too great. And I was upstairs ironing some clothes, finished ironing clothes, unplugged the iron and turned round, and the next minute my legs gave way, I collapsed. And I knew deep down, something told me you're in serious trouble. I knew I was in serious trouble. And unfortunately, my wife was down the stairs in the kitchen with the door closed. So I was upstairs to drag myself head first backwards down the first flight of stairs. Which you can imagine created a bit of a racket. And my wife come running out, and something kept telling me, stay calm. And I said, I need you to do two things: phone an ambulance and get me a belt. Because at that point I could feel something in my left calf moving. She got the belt. Now, I don't know, I've thought about this, and I've took a bit of sticky about, a bit of banter for why the tourniquet, maybe I was watching too many war movies and westerns as a boy,
rattlesnakes.
Did it work? No, did it help? But that's another story.
But it was quite smart to be thinking about something like that.
I don't know, as I say, point in time. Something told me to stay calm. That's basically the next sort of a hour or so is very fuzzy. The last thing I remember is going in an ambulance, and then I've come to, and I'm in a room, and there's a lady from head to toe in scrubs. All I can see is her eyes.
That's quite a terrifying experience.
Yeah, and she says, we need to go to theatre. No, we need to go for a CT scan, and I need your permission. We need to go now. So I signed this bit of paper, and the CT scan was still spinning, and the same wee lady was standing beside me said, we need to go to theatre. We need to go now.
Yep.
And I said, I take it I'm in trouble. She went, yeah. I said, how bad? She went, the worst kind.
At that point in time, did you have an idea of what this might be?
No.
You had no idea?
Absolutely no
You had no
clue.
idea that this may have been
Nothing.
caused by any
Absolutely nothing
vaccines?
came into my head at that point.
Yep.
And so I was given a phone, or I was given my phone, and I phoned my wife and 2 daughters, and basically to say goodbye. Unknown to me, they'd been taken to a private room and told there is no hope.
Yep.
We have never seen anything like this. We really don't know what to do. We're not giving up hope, but we have no hope. If he makes it out from the waist up, that's if he makes it.
Yeah.
I spent 7.5 hours in surgery, and I've come round, and the same wee lady is standing, and she said, do you know who you are and where you are? I said, I know who I am. I gave my name, Alex Mitchell. I said, I know I'm in a hospital, but I don't know where, and I don't know what's happened.
Yep.
And she explained that they'd spent time removing clots from my leg, my left leg, and I'm still kind of fuzzy for the anaesthetic and things like that, and I'm confused, and I'm saying my left leg, many clots. She said, oh, multiple. And multiple clots in my left leg. She went, no, in your lower abdomen, your left leg and your right leg. We think we're happy to say we've saved your right leg, but we have a worry and a serious concern about your left leg, and it's highly likely to be an amputation involved.
Yep.
At that, they gave me asked for some time just to process that.
That's a big question they were asking you there to consent to something like this.
They gave you 15 minutes. Well, they left the room, and I'd love to say that you get to contemplate all that. You don't. You can't keep a thought. There's thousands of thoughts going through your heads at milliseconds because you're looking at all the possible things that in your life that possibly you think this may be affecting. And the instant one is, I'll never walk again.
Yep.
You know that, but you don't, because that snowballs into, well, how am I going to provide for my family? How am I going to look after my daughters? How's my wife going?
Yep.
How am I going? All that comes in.
This hasn't just affected you.
No.
At this point in time, it is because you're still in hospital, but it's having a major effect on your family as well, your wife and your daughter.
Yeah, because they were told there was no hope.
Yep.
So they spent they spent 8 hours in the hospital walking up and down a corridor, waiting on me coming out of.
Yep.
If I was coming out of the theatre. And thankfully I did come out of it, and as I say, that's when she explained that there was likely to be an amputation. And when she come back, she said, do you have any questions? And I said, obviously there's a million questions you've got.
Yep.
But none of them, some of them are the stupidest questions, some of them are obviously relevant to how long am I going to be here.
Yes.
And, you know, she said, I'll go and get the vascular surgeon who's most likely to be doing the amputation. And she brought in this vascular surgeon. I call him my doc from Back to the Future. Because he's got the wild hair, the big glasses, he's got a kind of Swiss-French accent.
Yep.
One of the most compassionate human beings I've came across.
Yep.
Lovely, lovely man. And my first question to him was, he asked, you know, do you have any questions? I said, will it hold the weight of a scooter? The prosthetic leg? And he couldn't understand
Why this was the most important question.
And I said, because I'm a mod, and clearly didn't quite get that. So to get my phone, go into my Facebook and show him sort of this is me, my style, you know what I do. And he got it. And he said, I don't know, but we'll ask you a question. And he went through the whole process of that it was most likely, in his opinion, to be an above the knee. And I asked if there was no hope of it being a below the knee, because that makes a massive difference in the changes that we can do to a certain. It's still going to be a massive change, but not as much as an above the knee. And he was such a lovely, lovely man, as I say, and we went over all this and we spoke for the full week. And I asked, as I said, is there no hope? And he said, there's always hope. And I said, I'll take it.
Yep.
How long will you give me? And he said, I'll give you a week. And I thought he was giving me a week to allow me to, maybe some veins to repair to below the knee, but looking back, I now realise he didn't give me a week because I asked for it. He gave me a week because I shouldn't have survived the 7.5 hours
required
surgery.
it.
And I wouldn't have survived another surgery straight away.
Yep.
So I spent a week in isolation. That week was very much a haze in many ways because the
Did you get to see your
levels-
family throughout that week?
Only by telephone.
Right.
and
so
video
it
calls.
is isolation, right enough.
Yes, so it was complete isolation. However, what I did say the day of the operation, that I'd already said goodbye to my family once via telephone. I don't care how they sort it, I wasn't doing it again.
Yep.
And I'm not going to say how they done it, but my wife and my 2 daughters managed to appear. My wife at a doorway and my 2 daughters at a corridor where I could just visually
Yep.
wave goodbye to them just in case. And I was told by the vascular surgeon if it was an above the knee amputation, it would be about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. A below the knee, it would be 2.5 hours, no more, because there's more veins that they have to connect down there. And went into surgery a week later, and I actually woke up with my bed hitting the doors of the theatre coming out. I was literally awake that quick. And the first thing I've done is lift the covers, and that's when I realised that it was an above the knee.
Yep.
I'm not going to lie, that's been the darkest, blackest moment I had since I started, because I think I pinned everything on it being on a below the knee, and for some reason in my head, everything was going to be all right. And it wasn't. And they wheeled me into my room, and I'm looking at the clock, and obviously the anaesthetic's still kind of working through my system, and I'm confused. And the time doesn't add up. There's 2 hours on this.
Yep.
And just at that, the vascular surgeon that did the amputation came in, and he was absolutely devastated. He was actually more devastated than I was, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
Visually, I'm so sorry. I said, hold on, I said, you told me the most I'd been there 3.5 hours. There's nearly 2 hours of difference, so something went wrong. Talk to me, tell me what it was. And he said the minute, even the smallest arterial vein was just collapsing, disintegrating. The foot wasn't savable in any way, they couldn't use anything. And he went for an above the knee. At that point, I asked how long I would have to be in hospital. And he said it could be up to it could be up to it could be months in hospital, and it could be up to 18 months before you could learn to walk again. And I don't know about you, but that doesn't work for me. And I said, will you tell me what I need to do to prove to you that I can go home? And they said, there's a process. And I said, well, to be honest, we take a process and throw your rule book out the road. It doesn't work for me. And I was, within 8 hours of being amputated, I was in a gym, learning how to stand and start to walk again.
Good. So these emotions that you've went through there, it's kind of tragic because you've went into this, you've been put in this situation where you've had absolutely no time to compute that you're going to be losing your leg. There's obviously a lot of emotions there. And then afterwards, you're coming out and you're thinking, right, okay, I thought it was going to be below the knee, it's above the knee. And you're devastated there as well because you weren't prepared for this. So the emotions that are going through there, and then you've still got the strength to come back and say, get that rule book, put it out the door, and let's make me walk again. That's courageous.
I don't know if it's courageous. I think it's just my mother brought 5 of us up on her own. She was a very, very clever lady. She was a Duxer school. Could have went so far, but because she was on her own and 5 kids, she could only work in pubs. So she worked in pubs and did things like that for 60 years. Very clever lady, very well respected. God rest her. I miss her very much. She always said, it is what it is. You can't change it. You either deal with it or you don't. If you don't deal with it, it's still going to be there when you come back.
You need that optimism.
It's your call. And I've kind of been brought up with that. And she also, and I mean this in the nicest possible, and it wasn't always said with love, she called me the most thrawn, stubborn bastard she'd ever clapped eyes on. Now, I have to admit that I think she was right. And I think given that she's no longer with us, I have to honour the fact that she knew she was right. And have to continue to be that thrawn, stubborn, awkward bastard that I've turned out to be. Yeah, look, you can sit and feel sorry for yourself.
Yep.
And you'd be entitled to. I've said this before.
It doesn't get you anywhere, does it?
No, it doesn't do any good for me, because in 10 years' time, everybody I know have buggered off and left me. Because who wants to say, great face, stone face person that doesn't want to be here? And the other side, it, to be honest, was my wife and 2 daughters have been through enough.
Yep.
I
Don't make it any harder.
You can't go through it anymore. No, you could say I can't go through it anymore. I can't change that for me. I can maybe try and change how it affects them any further, if possible. You know, that's the hard part. That's the sad part, that so many lives in my family have been impacted. That's never mind mine.
I know. Yep.
I'm a big boy. I can look after me. I've always said that. But there's people out there that are in a bad place, you know, and it's not just vaccine injured people, it's people who are married to vaccine injured. You know, they're going through hell for various reasons, you know.
I want to touch on that kind of later on in the interview. I just want to get back to when you started walking again. So how long was it before you actually get back walking again and
I was actually
getting yourself at the hospital?
Well, it took 6 weeks for the prosthetic leg to be ready, so it's about 8 weeks. So to about 2 months after I was amputated, that would be April, May, June. Beginning of June. I kind of started to get my prosthetic leg and then training for that. That went brilliant. I was walking without walking sticks within 3 months. I was doing fantastic. A lot of that's down to the core strength as a scaffolder. Because you know yourself, your body's in phenomenal condition, even though you might not realise it.
Well,
you know,
I'm a scaffolder, as you know, Alex.
So, lifting 5 tonne of steel every day each.
Well,
I lift 5 tonne of steel, you might be a kid on scaffolder.
I didn't want to say that.
Sorry, sir. Where were we there?
So we're talking about the just getting out of hospital. You were, you know, so it was the June. You were walking.
Yeah.
You got the prosthetic.
But in hospital, I'd lost 3 stone. So some of that is obviously due to the limb being taken away. But I put 2 stone on in that cuff ligament. And that causes its own issues because suddenly this is a custom fit. And it doesn't fit anymore, so I tried to put a size 9 shoe on, a size 7, you know, a size 9 fit into a size 7 shoe, it doesn't work anymore. And we recast, and we thought that was the problem. When we got the new cast, it was agony. And we recast again, and that meant I was sitting in the house for nearly 7-8 months. And it turns out it was actually some issues down here, nothing to do with the cast. That's took us a year to get back to a certain level. I'm now able to wear the prosthetic leg and I can walk with 1 stick for a relatively period of time. But the body, it's like you keep taking step forwards and run backs and step forwards. And as long as it's trying to get that, as long as you're trying to make a continual movement forward, you've got that focus to say, well, I'll work through this. It's when you hit a plateau, that's the struggle, isn't it? Really to motivate yourself to try and push on. So the physical side has been difficult. The last 3 months I've been doing a sports physio that was recommended to me, and we spoke to each other, and he freely admitted he's never worked with an amputee, he's never worked with a VIT, which is what I've been classed as. So we come up with a protocol of treatment to try and help some areas that I had pointed out I was having problems with. And that has really worked well. He's been fantastic. We've ironed out all the issues that I was having muscular, apart from this one stitch.
Yep.
And if we can get that, then I think we're back to go again.
Yep.
For
Good.
you know,
Good.
green light and let's go.
I hope that works out.
Well, we keep trying.
Yeah.
We keep
Well,
trying.
you've got to know the the reaction to these vaccines. Let's talk about the vaccine companies. I mean, the most important element of what you're going through is you. It's about you and your health. But
Yeah.
you're trying to expose some information in respects to these vaccine companies. AstraZeneca, I believe, have been sued on a few occasions.
Right, if we can go into these vaccines,
Could we just touch on that? Because I know you have a lot of information.
AstraZeneca, I'll go with AstraZeneca because that's subject very close to my heart.
Yep.
AstraZeneca caused a condition called VITT, which is vaccine-induced thrombotic thrombocythemia. What the vaccine has done, it's taken an antibody called platelet PF4 antibody and turned it positive in the VITs, which means the blood just clots. It's only solely caused by, in this case, the AstraZeneca vaccine. AstraZeneca, that wonderful company, AstraZeneca and Pfizer are the two most fined companies in the world. If we go from the year 2000 alone, it runs into billions for both of these companies. Not millions, billions in fines. They've been charged, found guilty of corruption, trying to bribe government officials. So if we go with the AstraZeneca vaccine, that they didn't do any trials on.
Yep.
They didn't do any human trials. AstraZeneca brought this vaccine out and didn't do any human trials. They did 2 animal trials, and every animal in both trials had to be humanely put down within 48 hours.
That's
It
dreadful.
was then granted Emergency Use Act in the UK, so it's never actually been trialled in humans in the UK. It was trialled in America, and it didn't receive its Emergency Use Act in America. AstraZeneca gave the same safety data to the FDA, which is the Food and Drugs Agency in America, and the UK Health Regulations Authority in the UK. Sorry, I've lost track where I was going there.
So, we're talking about the AstraZeneca vaccine and the FDA. They never get the.
So the safety data that they sent to both regulations was the same.
Yep.
The American FDA refused an Emergency Use Act for AstraZeneca on the fact that its data was incomplete, incorrect, and out of date. So it was never granted emergency use in America.
Yep.
However, there was people it was trialled on in America, and one lady was, I want to say she's a physician,
Yep.
medical professional, volunteered for the trial, took massive reactions, and they stripped her out of the trial. So that it made it look good. But it never got use in America. But the UK government went ahead with the same data.
Why is that?
That's a very good question, and one that I think legally has massive implications, because we now know that the adrenaline vector that AstraZeneca used to drive this vaccine, as they call it, was causing clotting issues 20 years ago. We have that report. So they knew 20 years ago it was a clotting issue.
Yeah.
They pushed this ahead, they rolled it out, not in the UK first, other countries got it. I think Germany, Norway and Finland were some of the countries that got it. And in January, late January, last week in January, first week in February 2021, the Health Regulations Authority from Norway, I think it was Norway, sent out a report saying that it had 13 to 16 cases of fatalities who presented with symptoms, and the common denominator was the AstraZeneca vaccine. We now know all those cases are what's called definite VITs. You've got definite VITs, probable VITs and possible VITs.
Yep.
You've got to hit 5 symptoms or 5 ranges to be a bit definite. I'm 100% definite of it. And for those that don't know, I will never change now. I'll always be of it. They can't get my bloods back. They can't stabilise my bloods back to normality. And I've accepted that that's not going to change.
Yep.
So they went ahead with data that didn't get accepted by other regulations. I'm looking forward to that court case.
Yep.
When AstraZeneca fight with the FDA and the UK government, one of you is telling a lie.
Yep.
So you sort it out.
And the truth should come out.
The truth will out. People ask me why I've been so very vocal and so very visible about this. Because, one, the truth has to come out. We have to stop doing to people what we know is a problem. If these things are as safe as they're saying they are, then where are all the people that are turning up like me coming from? You know, I'm lucky, the condition that may sound strange in the situation we're in. I was the first in the world to survive with this condition, with the level of clots I had. I'm one of the oldest vets surviving. And I don't mean age, I mean term-wise, because mine was in March. Most of the ones that before me didn't survive, and quite a few after me didn't survive. We now know that this has caused 80 deaths in vets alone, and there's 444 vets in the UK alone. That's 360 odd survivors like me. There is a couple of amputees like me. To my knowledge, there's only 2 of us that are that have lost a leg. Same left leg from above the knee in the UK. The range of other issues is terrifying. Neurological issues, liver issues, heart issues, kidney issues, reproduction issues, neurological issues. One of a lady, Claire Hibbs, who's one of the UK's vets, went to see a neurologist, and after her meeting him, he said, "I'm not here to discuss vet, but that's what's caused the reason why she's there." And he said, "You should be rather proud of yourself after a 15-minute prep talk on how good vaccines were and the safety were to someone who's been damaged by a vaccine. You should be somewhat proud that you took one for the team and patted on the back and walked away." Now, that is a medically confirmed vet being gaslighted. I can give you thousands upon thousands of examples of people I now know personally that I never knew before that are fighting just to be medically recognised as being damaged by these things.
Where does that put them mentally? I mean, there's a lot of people commit suicide and just can't take it, is that right? Do you know people like that?
We've lost 6 people to suicide in the last 8 months alone. We lost somebody on Friday into Saturday. People are not giving up because they're ill. People are not giving up because they're not getting help. People are giving up because they're getting told it's all in your head. It's anxiety, it's PTSD. Just because a medical doctor doesn't know what's going on and won't admit to what's going on.
And in your case, you've had a payout, so they've admitted that they were at fault. And although you've got money, you would rather have your leg. You would rather not have this brain fog.
Yeah, they do
you
this
often get
wonderful thing called a vaccine damage payment scheme. That for anyone that's affected by a vaccine in the UK, you have to prove you are 60% disabled, and it's most likely to have been caused by a vaccine. Now, I'm more than 60% disabled just with losing my leg, and I've got we had the medical paperwork from the day I left the hospital saying that this was vaccine induced. So I've always had that. I was the first living person in the UK to be awarded the vaccine damage payment scheme, which is a one-off payment of £120,000 to support you. Now, as a scaffolder, you and I both know that's not even 4 years' salary for us.
I was going to say that. It doesn't even cover your salary for 4 or 5 years.
You know, it's an absolute insult It's an absolute insult to someone who's lost a loved one to be given £120,000
Yep.
and to stop your benefits.
It's dreadful. And there must be people in the medical professionals, they must see that these things are happening. Why is there not a lot of people coming forward? And
I can give you what I think's a few reasons for that. I think one, some people are just scared.
yep,
Some people believe what they're being told.
yep. So the propaganda's worked on them, the gaslighting.
And I'm talking scientists and doctors and professionals as well. They believe in what they're, because their government wouldn't lie to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your government wouldn't do that to you, surely.
That's what you think.
So, you know, so there's an element of that. There's an element of people have got kids and a mortgage.
Yep.
There's the fear that way. But there's another big element that nobody seems to pick up on. These doctors are getting paid £10.80 a prescription for
Yep.
every vaccine.
Yep.
So there's a lot of these doctors made a lot of money out of this. One doctor in London earned £85,000 in 1 week for these vaccines. That's why they're keeping their fucking mouth shut. These are a shrill. Yeah, and I mean that. I get really upset with that.
Of course you do.
Because your first ethic as a doctor is to do no harm.
Correct. That's the oath.
That's their oath.
Yep.
I don't call them doctors anymore. They're
Yep.
not doctors. The minute you start going down that road, you're not a doctor anymore.
It's like taking unlawful orders,
Yeah.
regardless to what you're doing. If you swear an oath to do no harm, and you're doing somebody harm, which they've done in your case, then
And for the first time in history, every other medical product has been created to protect you from something.
yep,
This has been created to protect others. You should never have been put in that position.
yep,
That's where we are now.
yep.
Now, we know all this now. Isn't hindsight wonderful?
I know. Yep.
You'd think now, 2 years down the road, they would have ironed some of these problems out, tried to resolve some of them. But they're steadfastly refusing to acknowledge there is a problem. AstraZeneca alone is responsible for 505 cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome, 5 of which have been fatal. 444 cases of VIT, 80 of which have been fatal. Now, just those two figures alone added together is enough to pull other products off the market permanently
Yep.
for less deaths.
Yep.
In the UK alone, we know roughly the numbers that have died from vaccines.
Is this through the yellow card system?
Yellow card
Is it?
system.
Yep.
Yeah. Yellow card system is a very misaligned system at times. Yes, you can input your records into it, but you need to be a very patient person because it's not an easy system to follow. It usually takes a doctor an hour to put one symptom in.
Yep.
Now I had 5. I'm responsible for 5 yellow cards because that's 5 different symptoms. That's 10 hours.
Yep.
How many doctors are going to sit for 10 hours and put every single in properly?
We're not seeing the right figures there.
So we know, even the government has accepted that the yellow card system could be underreported by as much as 10%. Now the current figures is roughly 500,000 adverse reactions to all these vaccines.
Yep.
Or these are adverse reactions that people think may have came from a vaccine. There's been 2,440 deaths related to what they think is a vaccine. I'm not going to sit here and tell you every single one of them is vaccine related. But what I'm saying to you is, not every single one of them is not. So therefore, begs the question, we need to look into why. If it underreported by 10%, if we even had 5% on one of those figures, it's frightening.
Yep.
So the yellow card system, yes, you can look and say the 500,000 adverse events is inflated. They're not all going to be vaccinated. No one that's ever stated that. As I say, I'm responsible for 5 of those. So even if you don't take the bigger number, but it doesn't change the fact that it's suspected that 2,440 people have died
Yep.
from one of these vaccines. And we now know that that number is climbing and climbing. So therefore, at this point, you're not listening to science. You're not listening to what you tell us. You told us to listen to science. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, your science turned out to be absolute shite and lies. I'm telling you the real science.
Yep.
That's the real figures.
Yep. And these are facts.
Yeah, anybody can go and check
You're
them
not
out.
making these up.
No,
Alex.
yellow cards
These are facts.
accessible to anybody in the UK.
Yep.
And for those in America, you've got VARs, which is their version of yellow cards. What people don't understand is that the European one, everything's fed into that.
Yep.
So, as all the UK data is fed into VARs as well, because AstraZeneca is an American company.
Yep.
It's a UK company, but the base is in America. Because if you phone their hotline number, that's where you go. 'Cause I've spoken.
Really?
Yeah, I phoned them at the very beginning. Very nefarious company. Very nefarious company. I phoned them at the very beginning and explained what happened, and I was making them aware that this product had caused a problem. And while we do everything we possibly can to ensure that our products and stuff is of top quality and safe, we would like to we will investigate this further. Could we have access to your medical records? Absolutely fine. Can we also have access to your full family's medical records? No, you can't. Why would you?
Yep.
Why would you? And at that point, I explained to the operator, or the lady who wasn't an operator, she was actually called me. She was one of the medical people for AstraZeneca. I says to her, I forgot where I was going there.
So, it's okay. We'll move on.
No,
It's
if you
fine.
tell me where I will come back to it.
Right, okay.
Oh yes, I spoke to her and she said, you and I both know you don't need that information. Because as per the government contract with the UK government, because I've read the contract, you already know about me.
Yep.
Because every single adverse reaction that's reported medically automatically gets notified to you with all the information you need. So why you need my medical records?
Aye.
They then deleted every email that they'd ever sent me.
Really?
Yes, and I can give you about 13 or 14 different vets who will give you the same experience.
That's, seeing they're starting to delete emails and backtrack like that, there's something seriously wrong.
Yeah.
They're hiding something.
They're hiding the fact that they're actually corresponding with us.
Yep.
They can't, if anything, the biggest fight over the last 2 years has been sifting through their I's and T's that they think they've dotted and crossed.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
because, every single step along the way, there's something you go, why would you put that in there to stop that? The court cases will come. We know they will come.
Without a doubt. And as you say, it'll be interesting. You're really interested in seeing how this AstraZeneca court case goes.
There's 3 going through civil litigation in America. My own personal belief is that the answer to this and the key to this breaking is in America. I believe, right or wrongly, that the UK government and the UK legal system is too closely aligned. And that's why we're never going to get the result that we need. However, America doesn't have that problem. They have 60 years of litigation experience, wonderful experience in all this. And there's 3 cases going through just now. One of those cases will win.
Yep.
That's what's going to break this. These companies need to be shown, we don't care what you think youth are saying, we tick those legal boxes. It's not about legal, it's moral obligation.
Well, one thing about Anti-Corruption Scotland, we're always focusing on common law.
Yep.
The men and the women, flesh and blood, rather than companies which are corporations. They're all registered in Dun and Bradstreet, and it's a fictitious. It's fictitious companies. It means that a doctor and a nurse or a police constable or whatever can hide behind that fictitious title, and therefore the man's safe. That's in the legal system.
Yeah, I find that that's the biggest problem I've got. Everybody knows who I am. I'm not hard to find.
Aye.
I've been very vocal and very visible, but a lot of the people that want to attack you,
Aye.
they've got no name, and they've got no face, and
Do you,
they're a
do you-
keyboard
do you
warrior.
get a lot of people attacking you?
I'm living in no man's land, along with thousands of other of us,
Yep.
because we get it from the pro-vaccine, because we're saying there's a problem with a vaccine.
Yep.
We're getting it from the anti-vaccine, because we took the vaccine. We're getting it from government, because we're being vocal about it. We're getting it from media, because we're misinformation. I'm labelled misinformation in social media. Now, I'm the
Accounts
UK
closed.
first person in the world to survive the level of clots. The first man in the UK, living person to be awarded anything in recognition of this. And I'm a conspiracy theorist, I'm making all this up. That's what we can, you know.
Yep.
So we get it from every angle, and people wonder why we're losing people to suicide.
Yep.
Never in history has people been put through the level of what they've been put through.
Yep.
You know, in many levels, gaslighting. I've seen videos of nurses telling patients that they spoke to a cardiologist for some length of time. And I mean, arguing. Do not debate this with me in the most arrogant way you could imagine.
Yep.
Never had a conversation with a cardiologist.
Unbelievable.
In fact, I did somebody older. Now, I've got brain fog. It's a common side effect that we all have for these. So I could be there, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
people are ridiculing us, and we're getting it from every angle. I've been told you deserve to die. You should have lost both legs.
Sick.
Yeah, it's a sick world.
Sick.
I'm a big ugly boy. I'm not here for your pity,
Yeah.
your sympathy. I want your voice.
Yep.
I want your support. Not for me. Nothing's going to give me my leg back.
Yep.
But if I can stop you from thinking about this,
Yep.
and you making a clear, conscious decision for you, knowing the facts, I'll support you whatever you do.
This is where I wanted to go with this, Alex, because now they're going to try and push the vaccines on children, and some kids are actually getting taken to vaccine centres, and their parents. If you're a parent and you're watching this, please listen to this, man. Please listen to what he's saying. It might save your child's life. What's your thoughts on the children? Are these parents that are vaccinating their children?
There's three basic questions
Yep.
that every parent, irrespective of what faith, colour, religion, sexuality you are, should be asking for if you've got children. One, can you supply the independently verified safety data for children for these? Two, will this government support my child for life should it go wrong? Three, will the pharmaceutical company support my child for life should it go wrong? As a parent, you've got a duty of care to look at those three questions and ask those questions. And if any of those answers is no, you really should have to think about what you're doing to your child. And worldwide at this moment, the answer's no to all three. There is no medical, scientific reason for children to be given this. There's 99.98% chance of having no issues with this virus.
Yep. So therefore, why a vaccine?
There's no need for it to be given to children. Do not let them near your children.
And we're seeing reports as well where young kids, teenagers playing football and things like that, fit young kids, and they're just falling over and dying.
There's been over 1,000 athletes.
This is happening in the UK.
And worldwide, 1,000 professional athletes have either retired, dropped down dead, or no longer able to continue in the sport they're in because of issues that they're having heart-wise.
And what's the common denominator here? Is it the vaccine?
We know it's the vaccine. None of them are safe. None of them. Pfizer tried to lock its data away for 75 years.
That's correct, that's
And
right.
it was a judge who ordered it to release it. They then wanted to release it at 100 pages per week, and they were told that they had to release it at 10,000 dumps.
Yep.
Now, they're doing it, but what they're doing is they're dumping a couple of pages for that section, that section, thinking that
No full disclosure.
trying to muddle the waters.
Yep.
They got that one wrong, because there's lots of very, very clever people in this world, far clever than you and I. And some of them took the time to put it all together. And even their own trial safety data showed 80% reactions.
80%.
It's horrific.
That's
There was
terrible.
deaths in it.
Yep.
Young children. I know a young lad called Maxwell Harrison. He was in a documentary that appeared in called Safe and Effective, A Second Opinion. He was an amateur ballroom dancer, semi-professional. 22, and he was in the top 7 in the world at ballroom dancer. He's a lovely lad. He'll never dance again. He'll never dance again. his heart's damaged in 3 places at 22.
Myocarditis.
Pyocarditis and myocarditis. If Max's heart goes above 135 beats, which isn't high, he has the risk of a cardiac incident.
Yep.
Now, at 22, that's a terrifying thing to be telling any 22-year-old. I also know someone who had to have that conversation with a 10-year-old.
That's
How do you
dreadful.
tell a 10-year-old not to stand up?
It's
That he can't stand up because his heart's going to go into arrest.
it's devastating. You try to find words to
So,
say the right thing.
I don't ask you for your sympathy. I don't ask you for for anything other than your voice. But I do ask you if one thing: have a real serious think about your children, please. I can't bring my life back. I don't want to ever hear you say that you can't bring your child back.
Thanks. Thanks for that. What about the future for yourself then?
The future for myself, I honestly don't know, because I've ended up on a road that, for many ways, that was never ever laid out in front of me. I never expected in any way, don't get me wrong, if I've ever expected to be like this, I'd have thought I'd been doing something with my scooter coming back for a rally or something, you know. So I've had to contemplate where that future is. And I really set about a year ago, a year and a half ago, to find other people like me to try and help each other.
Yep.
And I realised quickly that there was more than just me out there. Many of them were in worse places mentally and physically than I was,
Yep.
and not getting any help and support. At least I was medically getting help and support. And I've always been a bit of I hate bullies, innit? And I just see this as a form of bullying, ignoring people. And it just seemed to snowball, and I've ended up here, and I don't really know where this path goes. I do know that this is the hill that I'm fighting for the rest of my life, for whatever that term may be left. How long have I got? We don't know. Have I got what you would expect? No. I already know that. I've came to terms with that. This is the finisher for me. I've came to terms with that, and if it happens tomorrow, there's nothing I can do about that. And there's nothing you can do about that. So I tend not to worry about it. I try not to.
Live for the moment.
Live for the moment. I have some plans. I've got some personal goals that I want to achieve. You know, just as a human being. But for me, Alec Mitchell the vet, where do we go from here? I think in some way, form or other, I'll always be doing what we're doing here now. Whether that be going into schools and talking to kids who have never seen an amputation, no, primarily because it's fit. Because kids ask the right questions.
I was going to say that they should be asking their parents the questions before.
Kids ask wonderful questions,
Yep.
because kids do something that adults don't do.
That's right.
They've got innocence.
Correct.
They've got no ulterior motive, agenda. They just see, there's a man that lost a leg. What did you leg? How did that happen?
They constantly ask questions.
You know, and they ask the questions that adults want to ask. Scared to. I've been asked some strange questions, and it's not been kids. You'd think the kids would ask the really strange questions, but it's adults that's had some of them. You know, what did they do with your leg? How would I know?
I know. Well, that is a strange question, right enough.
I was asked. That was the funniest one. Was every adult usually you've got roughly 8 pints of blood in you.
Yeah.
Well, what have you got now that you're minus a leg? I did ask that question, and even the haematology team laughed at that one and thought, that's a good question.
They don't know.
Need to come back to don't know an answer. Well, they did eventually. They told me that their belief is that if you take a pint of blood out of you, you automatically, over 24 hours, it'll reinvent itself to 8 pints again. So I've probably still got 8 pints. I'm not going to try and take it out of me to find out. I've already tried that one.
No, let's not do that. Listen, it's been absolutely fantastic having you here, Alex, and hopefully...
I hope, if nothing else, people see that people that are vaccine injured, they need not just medical support. They don't need, they need financial support as well, but they need something more than anybody can give them that costs them nothing. They need your voice to tell people there is a problem here. Now, at the end of the day, if you say, you know, these vaccines have saved millions of lives, the question I'm going to ask you is, you show me the data that shows they have saved millions of lives. Because I can't find it. I've looked for it.
Yep.
I've heard all
It's
these
not there.
stories from governors, I can't find it. But I can certainly show you certainly lots of data, verified, certifiable, that there is a problem with all of these vaccines in one form or another. Let's address that. Let's give these people what they need. Support. Just being acknowledged that something's happened to you is the biggest thing for most of us.
Where could somebody who's been vaccine damaged go? Where initially they're going to have to deal with their medical issue, but where can they go for mental support and moral support?
There's a couple of places. Social media, unfortunately, is the only area that we have just now.
Yep.
We have nothing official other than a charity helpline that was set up to try and help vaccine injured. The problem with that is it's not allowed to give medical advice.
Yep.
And it's not allowed to give legal advice. So all you can do is signpost people to websites
Yep.
where they have to look themselves to help. And it's a terrible situation that a charity has been set up to set up a helpline. The government should have that. They should be doing this where medical advice can be given. We've got lots of doctors, nurses in the background that would love nothing more to spend some of their free time helping vaccine injured in an official capacity.
Yep.
But they can't take that chance. They're not allowed to give vaccine injured advice because they don't know.
Terrible.
Stop this.
Uh-huh.
You know, acknowledge that there is a problem. Put something in place. At the moment, they're trying to reform this vaccine damage payment system that was set up in the 1970s. It's not fit for purpose. We know it, and it hasn't been for a long time. We should, this indemnity thing should be taken out.
Yeah.
That was something that was given 50 years ago, nearly 60 years ago. Like everything else in life, everything should be reviewed regularly. Telling me, if something's been looked at 5 times now, it's a problem. And it's not been addressed, it's still a problem. So there's so many avenues that we could go, but first and foremost, I think the biggest thing I need from everyone is to be aware that the words that you say to people like me could be the final words. And I want to finish on that, because I don't want to spend another weekend that I did last weekend speaking to people behind the scenes 4 or 5 hours at a time, to not just to lift them up, but to lift me up. Because when we lose one, we lose the potential of so many more.
Yep.
My biggest fear is that when does this become unacceptable? Because what's happening is it's getting easier for people like myself who have been damaged by a vaccine, being told that they're misinformation and all these negative things. It's making it easier for these people to see that there's nowhere else to go.
Yep.
Because if the only place they've got to be support is on social media, because their family doesn't believe them, or they fell out with their family, their doctors doesn't believe them, nobody believes them. It's a very dark, lonely place to be.
I can imagine.
And sometimes somebody saying to you, you deserve what you got, might be, do you know what, you're right, and they go and do something about it. It makes it easier for them to go, because they sit and go, well, we've got nowhere else to go. I mean, you've shut every avenue down,
Yep.
so you're forcing them into suicide. Be careful with your words, people. What you say to me might not affect me, but it might affect the guy next to me, or the guy behind me. You know, we can't lose any more to suicide. We've lost enough to the vaccines. We've lost enough to these viruses. We've lost enough to the government not interested in us. All you want is acknowledged and listened to and helped properly. If we can't do that as a society, then we're in a worse place than I ever thought we were.
Yep. I'm going to end the interview there. I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Something we always say here at Anti-Corruption Scotland, we give facts, it's no information, it's facts. And we give it in our own private capacity under full personal liability, even under a charge of perjury. These facts that you're given, would you be happy to stand up by that?
Heartbreaking, because if you look at the facts, you can just take the emotions out and look at the facts of any of this. You see, hold on, this doesn't add up.
Yep.
None of it adds up. You know, we've not even spoke about the support process.
That's right. And I would like to try and get you back and get another interview kind of later, further down the line. And just see how, because there's so much information, there's so much facts that you've got, Alex, because you've looked so hard into this. It's, I would like to have you back again.
Not a pleasure, definitely a pleasure.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. No, thank
Thanks very much, people.
Thank you.
Alex,
Thank you very
once
much.
again.